Hello everyone and welcome back to the Sports Porch. I hope that you are all doing well. Welcome to upload number 2 of the day. I did miss yesterday, so here we are again, I think on another Sunday, doing another double upload. So if you guys are enjoying the series so far, make sure you drop a like on this video and subscribe. I'm trying to get to 50 subscribers by the end of the year, so if you could help me out with that, I would greatly appreciate it. Just a reminder, every single day up until the NFL season, you'll be seeing a new video from me coming out, breaking down a team's strengths, weaknesses, storylines for the NFL season, as well as some key players for not only on the field, but on your fantasy rosters as well, and just in general giving a schedule overview and win-loss predictions. So if you're into that, if you're interested in other teams, make sure to do all that great stuff. And so with that housekeeping out of the way, today we're going to be talking about team number 19, the Chicago Bears. They are in my tier 3, missing a few pieces, or really that it factor. If you are curious as to my power rankings tiers, those will be in the description below. So if you want to see some more info on all of those and what that has to offer, then feel free to go give that a look. So a coaching analysis, Ryan Pace somehow is in year 7 already. Same for Matt Nagy at head coach, is in year 4. Offensive coordinator Bill Lazor is in his second year. Defensive coordinator Sean Desai is in year 1. Chris Tabor at special teams is in year 4. Strengths, quarterback is upgraded this year. And I'm not even talking about Justin Fields, who is going to be in the thumbnail of this video, and I'm probably going to do something clickbaity with him, but we'll talk about them a little later. All you need to know is that even with Andy Dalton at quarterback, this is the best quarterback that Matt Nagy has ever had to work with. I mean, think about it. Mitch Trubisky, Nick Foles, Andy Dalton is miles better than both of those guys. And I don't even think Andy Dalton's like a great quarterback or something like that. He's okay. He's average. He's somewhere in like the 20 to 30th best quarterbacks in the NFL. But he's the best guy they've ever had in terms of in this Matt Nagy era. And then obviously we'll get to Justin Fields a little bit later in this video, but I mean, drafting him, that really did, I think, save Ryan Pace's job for at least another 2 years or whenever Justin takes the field. No pun intended. The defensive front for this team as well is still very good. Khalil Mack is the big name here. Top 5 edge rusher in the NFL. Akeem Hicks as well in the interior really helps out Khalil. He's kind of his Robin to Khalil's Batman there. Roquan Smith emerging as a great interior linebacker. Eddie Goldman, Danny Trevathan, Robert Quinn, even Bilal Nichols. There's a lot of guys on this team. They have a lot of depth there as well. The receiving group is good, even after the Anthony Miller trade, which I was a little surprised about because I really didn't think that he had leverage in that position per se, but I was surprised to see that. But you still have Allen Robinson, who I think at this point is a top 10 receiver in the NFL. You have to recognize him as that. He's been kind of dealt the DeAndre Hopkins hand, right, where he's been getting tossed the ball by terrible quarterbacks, and I think it's going to be very similar to Hopkins in that sense, where we knew he was good, but we weren't really exactly sure how good he was going to be until we saw him with a Deshaun Watson, a Justin Fields. Hell, even Andy Dalton is better than anyone I've said before who has been on this Bears team. And then Darnell Mooney, who is kind of a favorite among fantasy groups. We'll talk about him a little later. Marquise Goodwin comes to this team as well, and they also drafted Daz Newsome out of North Carolina for the receiving group. So that's probably going to be somewhere around your 4 guys. There might be a couple other guys on the depth chart worth looking at. Cole Kmet at tight end. Jimmy Graham as well is still here at tight end. I keep forgetting about that. And then in the run game, David Montgomery can catch some balls out of the backfield. I forget if Tariq Cohen is still on this team. Let me check very quickly. He is still on this team. He's just on the PUP list right now. So he's obviously always going to be there out of the backfield. Damien Williams they bring in from the Chiefs, and Khalil Herbert, who they drafted also out of Virginia Tech. So that's all good there. And then as for weaknesses, the offensive line is still pretty young, and there is there's a weak link at center, and they aren't particularly deep. Mainly Sam Mustipher is the big question mark there, although I did love the Tevin Jenkins pick. He's going to be their right tackle. He did play left at Oklahoma State, so there is a saying where switching from left side to the right side or vice versa, I've heard is kind of like wiping with your other hand. So take that as you will. But Tevin Jenkins, clearly a fall, I think, in the draft. He should have been drafted in the first round to the frickin' Raiders, if we're being honest. Just an absolute inexplicable fall until you, I guess, look at the health reports. But hey, I'm just some dude on YouTube. I don't have access to that, and I thought Tevin Jenkins should have gone in the first round. They do have at guards Cody Whitehair and James Daniels, as well as Jermaine Afidi, who can play right tackle if Tevin Jenkins, for whatever reason, doesn't work out. So they have some decent guys, but the line isn't quite the best in the world. And even after I just said the quarterback is an upgrade, I don't know how much it'll matter until Fields plays. I keep lingering that question of, like, when's he going to play? I'll answer that in a little bit. But I think for at least the start of the year, it's going to be kind of like we're just waiting to see Fields to really figure out the potential of this team, at least for this year. And then I think another question mark, or really a weakness, is potentially the play calling. If you'll remember last year, there were reports that about halfway through the year or so, Bill Lazor, who is the offensive coordinator, took over for play calling from Matt Nagy, and the offense started to perform really well. They were starting to click a little bit. I think that was when they won against Minnesota. And then all of a sudden, Matt Nagy took the play calling back, and they were magically not very good anymore on the offensive side during games. So it'll be interesting to see if Nagy can figure out that he was the issue, I guess, and leave it up to Lazor. I do think Nagy is a good play designer, and we'll talk about him in a little bit. Actually right now. So some storylines into the season. What's Matt Nagy's offense going to look like now with some good quarterback play? As I said before, I think Matt Nagy is a decent coach. I mean, from what we've seen from so far, I don't think we can really judge the guy fairly. It seems like he knows how to design plays pretty well. As I said before, though, the play calling, I think he should leave that to Lazor and let him take the reins on that and just stay hands off and really stay in more of a state, in the meetings, designing plays, things of that nature, putting wrinkles in. I think he's good at that stuff. There were times, especially during the Trubisky era, where if you watch the film, you could see guys wide open, but Trubisky was Trubisky, so he couldn't quite hit those throws. And then how will the secondary do with Kyle Fuller gone? Now, I do have a theory on this. So they did bring in Sean Desai as their defensive coordinator, who was a safeties coach for this team for a while. And if you'll know, they have a guy named Eddie Jackson back there playing safety, who he's pretty dang good. So I am thinking, even with Kyle Fuller leaving this team, I think bringing in Sean Desai is going to help ease that pain a little bit. I think they should have kept Fuller. It is what it is. I'm not the GM there. And then when does Justin Fields start for this team? If at all, honestly. And I will tell you exactly where I think he's going to start. Week 11 versus Baltimore, which is right after their bye, and I'll explain that more in the schedule overview. So there you go. So some key players, whoever's playing quarterback, Andy Dalton or Justin Fields. As I've said multiple times throughout this series breakdown, quarterback maker breaks your team. It's as simple as that. If you have a good quarterback, your chances go up a lot higher. Look at my Green Bay Packers. Tevin Jenkins is another guy. He's going to be at right tackle. They spent that pick on him. Apparently there were health concerns. Whatever. I think he's going to be fine. I think he's going to dominate. As Brett Coleman said, he's going to be a Brian Bulaga on steroids. I love that comparison. And then Darnell Mooney, I think, stepping into this true number 2 spot, potentially number 3 if Goodwin takes it. But he has a real chance with Anthony Miller gone to really take over for this team as their wide receiver number 2. So keep your eyes out for Darnell Mooney. And then as for the best fantasy players, David Montgomery and Allen Robinson, you can kind of flip-flop between who's going to go first. I would say just because of the running back value, Montgomery will go first, although I think Robinson will overall have the better numbers and just the better season. I have him in my Dynasty League, and I don't regret drafting him. At least I don't think I will. And then I guess Justin Fields. Look, I don't know when he's going to play. If you're in redraft, it's a little tricky, but if you're in Dynasty, I would say Lawrence and Wilson should come off the board first, just because those two are guaranteed to play right away. And then after that, Fields should come off, and then Trey Lance. We will get to him way down the road. So my sleeper player for this team, I have 2 of them actually. One of them is Darnell Mooney. He has kind of gained this cult following within the fantasy world. Especially like Dynasty guys on Twitter, they seem to really fall in love with Darnell Mooney, and it makes a lot of sense. He had a big breakout year last year, and I mean the dude's only 23 years old, so he is going to be on this team for a while, can be their number 2 as soon as this year. And while Allen Robinson is over there getting Jair Alexander, Patrick Peterson, Jeff Okudah, whoever your number 1 corner is on your team, Jalen Ramsey this year, I think they're playing. Whoever that is, Darnell Mooney will not be getting that same attention, and so he's going to be able to eat during these games, especially hopefully if Nagy's play design is as good as advertised. And then I do have, for another true sleeper guy, Khalil Herbert. Like I said, he was taken in the 6th round out of Virginia Tech. This depth chart is pretty full for running back. Like I said before, they are quite literally 1, 2, 3, 4 guys deep. And then you have Herbert in that mix there. So Montgomery's job, I think, is safe for now, at least for the next 2 years. Damien Williams is kind of a mercenary contract. You could argue Tariq Cohen might be off the team soon, but who honestly knows? I mean, Herbert might be his replacement at this point. But I think Herbert is a guy that you can draft, stash on either your taxi squad or deep on your bench, and just be able to let him sit, see if anything comes out of it. I have him on one of my teams, I think, right now in my taxi squad. Just kind of waiting to see what happens there. So then a schedule overview. Unfortunately for the Bears, they have the 3rd hardest schedule in the NFL. And as I was saying before, Justin Fields is going to start Week 11 at home against Baltimore. And here's why. I'm just going to list off their first 9 games before that bye week. At the Rams, home against Cincinnati, at Cleveland, home against Detroit, at Las Vegas, home against Green Bay, at Tampa Bay, home against San Francisco, and at Pittsburgh. Talk about a tough start to the year. I don't know about you, I wouldn't want my rookie quarterback playing against that. And I think that Week 11 versus Baltimore is a great spot to bring him back at. You are still playing a really good defense, a really good team in general in Baltimore, but you're coming off of a bye. You have given him basically half the season to figure guys out. And after that, the schedule does loosen up a little bit. You don't have quite as good teams as you did in the first half of the year. So that's where I would start Justin Fields if I was Ryan Pace or Matt Nagy or whoever's in charge of that decision. Some other key games on the schedule besides that one. Week 6 versus Green Bay. Don't really need to explain that one. And then Week 15 and Week 18. One which is home against Minnesota, one which is at Minnesota. I think they'll split one of those 2 games. If I had to put money on it, I think they're going to win at Minnesota in Week 17. Just because of the way the schedule works out with Week 15. I think they have some weird stuff going on in terms of like Monday night games or Thursday night games the week before. So my prediction for this team is they're going to go 7-10. I mean, the floor for this team, depending on what happens, I would say they definitely still have a chance at 4 or 5 wins. I'm going to go with 5, just because I think there's enough talent, at least on this roster, to justify getting 5 wins on the year. They do play Detroit twice a year, which I think guarantees at least 2 wins. And they also play a couple of teams at home that I think they can get some wins off of as well. I mean, my ceiling for them is 10 wins, simply because I don't think Fields is going to play most of the year, or at least he's not going to play, a good amount of the year. And then the Vegas over-under for this team is 7.5. Just don't bet it. Like, really, just do not bet it. They really could finish anywhere between 5 and 10, I think. It's fairly realistic to see. Like I said, buzzsaw of a schedule. Really hard to predict here. So then finally, this team really does have a lot of pieces to be great. They've got a stud wide receiver. They've got the stud defensive end, potentially stud tackles, right? And the biggest problem is going to be potentially that offensive coordinator spot / play calling, play design, whatever you want to call it. I think this year we are really going to see Matt Nagy's true colors. However, I don't think those true colors are going to be shown to us until week 11 at versus Baltimore, just because of the fact that there's no Justin Fields on the field. Like, it is really hard to project this team without him playing. So I do want to say, though, Chicago fans, this is coming from a Packer fan, be excited for the future. Realistically, I really don't think you guys should have had a shot at getting a guy like Justin Fields in this draft. But there he was. Ryan Pace, to his credit, went after it, made the move, made the gutsy call to move up in the draft and go get his guy. I have to commend him for that. I have to commend the Bears for that, for really injecting a shot into the veins of this franchise. So, Chicago fans, get excited for your team. I certainly would be with Justin Fields. When do you think he's going to start? Do you think he's going to start right away? Week 5, week 10? I'm not going to start at all. Let me know in the comments below. Once again, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you like and subscribe. Just a reminder, every single day leading up until the NFL season, you will see a new video from me covering each and every team, giving my power rankings, and a overall breakdown of the team, just like you saw today. But until the next one, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys on the next one.